New mic, different camera, same old problems. I hope you guys can hear us, and I hope we're coming in clear. I only tested it 358 times, Drew, so hopefully you're seeing our beautiful faces and hearing our wonderful voices.
359 times. And
I know.
It's probably broken.
I hope not, guys. Welcome into Sports Around the Bar, your favorite sports talk show, I'm sure, and I'm only saying that because I haven't come up with another catchphrase yet. We've got a lot of action to talk about. Drew, I know you're excited to talk about this Chiefs game before it comes on. You're kind of hurrying me. You're already hurrying me.
Yeah,
you're already
hurry!
like, let's talk about the games. We won't waste too much time here. Let's start by talking about who your favorite quarterback is in the NFL. No, let's not. Let's talk about some of this action this week. Is there a game that took you by surprise before we start?
It starts with the Oakland Raiders and what they did in London and literally ran all over, in both of our opinions, the best defense in this league. That definitely took me by surprise. They got an early lead. They kept that lead. Yeah, the Bears tried to catch up. It just wasn't enough. And I know Steven's going to love this when he gets on, but that's what a good team does, is they get a lead, and they hold that lead regardless of how good that team is behind them. Michael, what's going on, man? He says KC is going to get whooped. By who?
By Jacoby Brissett, the best quarterback in the AFC South.
He has, thrown a lot of touchdowns.
I know, but every time I said Jacoby Brissett's not that good, everyone's like, oh, you're crazy. You're a hater. And now I'm saying the same thing about Gardner Minshew, that I'm like, he's not as good as everyone wants to believe he is.
Dude, you're a hater.
I know. I get it. I understand. Maybe I just don't like the AFC South quarterbacks, but I think, again, I got to go Chiefs. Before we get too far out into our spoiler alerts here, I don't think the Colts are built to stop this wrecking ball of the Chiefs offense that we're going to see tonight. We're not going to go too far into it, though. Not yet, anyway. Jeremy says, but the Colts defense. Does the Colts defense slow down Patrick Mahomes in ways that other defenses I was going to say the Ravens, but they're not any good. No. Other teams have not.
No, it's not going to happen. Austin, good to see you, man. He says he's been missing a lot of our shows.
We've been missing you, man. Where you been?
Dude, 6:45.
No, we understand. It happens. Life gets busy. We're glad you're back, and we're glad you're in here now.
Don't look at your clock right now.
6:45-ish.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, let's start by talking about this first game because we have to talk about it. The Cardinals and the Bengals. There are implications here. There is a reason to watch it because odds are the Bengals just locked up the first pick, or at least are in a dogfight with the Dolphins now to go get it.
Right. I mean, you say we don't want to talk about it. I do want to talk about this game. I mean, this game, to me, is an exciting game in the sense of who is one of the worst teams in this league. And Cardinals, for a long time, was in that talk with, the Bengals and the Dolphins and the Broncos. Well, now, you can throw the Cardinals out of that scenario. They finally won a game.
And this is where the tie comes in, right? Now you're more than a game up on everybody.
Right. And they did it in a fashion of, time running out, 31-yard field goal by Zane Gonzalez. I mean, it's a little exciting, and a great run by Murray, too, that allowed him to get closer into field goal range as well.
He had a number of good runs today. I'm not going to tell you he was super impressive, only throwing for 253 yards, 20 of 32. It wasn't a bad day, no touchdowns, no picks. He got a lot done on the ground, though. He got 93 yards with his legs on 10 rushes, scored a touchdown, diving basically into the pylon. I think Kyler Murray has looked okay. I still think this Cardinals offense is still a year away from being competitive. Their offensive line is still terrible. I understand it was the Bengals, and I would have liked to see a couple more touchdowns or maybe a couple more splash plays where Kyler Murray just kind of jumps off the page, and you're like, there's a reason they took this guy first overall. I didn't really see that today. Not a lot of it anyway. It's still an impressive win. I'm going to put this still on Cardinals versus on Kyler Murray not being good enough. I'm going to say the Cardinals offensively are not good enough yet.
I'll give you that. As far as the other side of the ball, you go look at what the Bengals did offensively. Mixon almost there for 100 yards. Tyler Boyd taking that leading role. You don't have Ross there. You obviously don't have Green. Is Boyd becoming a legitimate number one receiver in this league? 10 receptions, 123 yards, and a touchdown. I get he's the only target he's got, but
sure.
There's a lot of teams with only one target, and they don't put up these kind of numbers.
Yeah, but it would also be a little hypocritical of me when I kind of panned Lamar Jackson when he had his big day against the Cardinals and to come out and say, oh, Tyler Boyd's great because he beat up on this defense that's missing Patrick Peterson, and their other starter, Robert Alford, who's not the best corner in the world himself, is out with a broken leg. This is a good game at an opportune moment for a receiver that has needed to have good games in opportune moments. Up to pretty much last year, we saw Tyler Boyd just kind of float around for a couple of years, not really do anything. John Ross the same way. This just needed to happen if you're going to keep a guy like this around. Do I think he's a world beater now? Do I think it's, now he's arrived? No, because I think this is just a bad defense, and if you look at what the rest of the offense did, they pretty much got shut down. I think this is just a guy showing up and showing that I've got a little bit of talent, and maybe it's not time to cut me just yet. That might be a little too harsh. You get what I'm saying, though. You understand where I'm coming from.
Steven, please just be patient. Let us get through these games, man. Don't get us off course. I got a game I got to watch tonight, and we will not ignore the Raiders win.
I'll read them real quick, and then we'll talk about
I was just going to come back to him.
A win for the Raiders would be getting away without their QB getting hurt. Absolutely. I still agree with that. Derek Carr survived. That is a win for the Raiders. He also said every game is 50-50, but the Raiders and Bears. I think that was probably me too.
Those are both your quotes.
Well, hey, look at the bright side. It wasn't 50-50, but you pulled out the odds. Tell me, if they played 100 times, how confident would you be that your Raiders walk away with the win? Especially if they don't have to travel to London for that. We'll talk about them in a minute. Let's talk about the worst game that I don't want to talk about: Bills and Titans.
Let's get into the Bills and Titans game. You know, it was a win by the Bills, going 14-7. Josh Allen got to play, and to be honest with you, I think that was the worst thing that could have happened for the Titans. Not that he put.
I think Matt Barkley beats us too.
Out amazing numbers, but he's this offense is familiar with Josh Allen. They know what he's going to do. They have a lot of chemistry. Obviously, Brown had somewhat of a decent game with 5 receptions, 75 yards. Nothing sat there and out. You know, when you look at this game, you're like, nothing statistically is exciting, except the fact that the Titans look troublesome. That's the best way for me to put it. Well, they look like they're in a lot of trouble.
Can I go into this now? Are you ready for me to just rip this game apart?
I was just trying to give you like the title to what you're about to say.
Sure. The Titans don't look like they're great, but then again, every time they had a big play today, there was some bad penalty called against them that had nothing to do with the play, and there was a couple holds. There was face mask on Mariota not called. There was a lame sliding hit on Josh Allen where Jarrell Casey tried to jump over him and caught him with his knee when he slid right in front of him. Called that. It was left and right and center. The bad penalties today. On top of it, the Titans missed 4 field goals, even despite all the penalties. The Titans still missed 4 field goals, and I talk about this a lot. It would be, again, hypocritical of me not to say the same thing. Great teams overcome. This Titans team is not great. I think the thing nobody's talking about right now is Mike Vrabel having his second major coaching gaffe in back-to-back weeks. Last week, he elected to not kick a field goal on 4th and 1 against the Falcons. That would have made it a multi-score game, like a 3-score game. They wound up turning the ball over and letting the Falcons have a chance to come back. This week, he decides to kick a 53-yard field goal which is 1 yard shorter than Santos' all-time long on a day where he's already missed 3 field goals. You'd still need to score a touchdown. You haven't been moving the ball all day, and you're going to kick a 53-yard field goal when you've got 4th and 4. I'm not saying it's time to fire Vrabel, and I've already seen a few Titans fans come out and say, oh, we need to get rid of him. He's not ready to be a coach. I'm not saying that, but another 1 or 2 of these, I might get on board before the end of the season. You need to understand how to put your team in the best position to win. Kicking a 53-yard field goal for a guy who shanked a couple 30s and a 45 is not the best place to go try a 53-yard field goal, especially when you're still going to have to come back and in 3 minutes stop them and then score a touchdown yourself to win the game. Bad coaching, bad kicking. I think the biggest thing to take away from this game here, Mariota wasn't the biggest problem out there today. He wasn't great, ran into a couple sacks. A couple sacks weren't his fault. The Bills didn't do anything spectacular. I didn't think they were very good on defense. They were giving up a bunch of chunk plays to the Titans, and then those magical yellow flags came in to save them. I'm not saying it was, slanted, but I talk about the Titans a lot, saying they lose these games to bad competition, and I promise I'll wrap up here. The reason they lose these games to bad competition is because they're usually refereed by these subpar refereeing groups, and today was just another one of those examples. The only way to overcome it is to finally start winning some of these games and get to play with better matchups, get the better announcers, get the better ref crews, because honestly, this is what keeps them hanging around 9-7 every year. Sorry, I know that was long. It was tough today to be a Titans fan. That's all I can say. It was, and I know I'm not the only one going through it. I imagine Bears fans aren't having a good time.
I'm not gonna dwell on that game. Daniel says Pats ring number 7. Daniel, I hope not. Ian says Steelers look good, head high. Even though they lost that game, he's saying they still look decent.
We'll talk about it in just a second.
And we'll get to it.
When it comes to questionable calls.
What I was going to say.
Why did they not receive an overtime when you win the coin toss?
Yeah, I was just going to say that's what Steeler fans hope for, or Steeler organization hope for, is fans like Ian. No doubt about it. Steven says round 1 of Khalil trade goes to the Raider Nation. Enough said. Chris, good luck to you and the Colts, man. I really hope there's not a miracle in Kansas City unless it's towards the Chiefs. I'd like to stay undefeated. Austin says, win or loss or tie, Steelers until he dies. Another great fan for the Steelers.
That was a good game. For having
really
your third string
was.
quarterback, that was a good game. The Jets were on their third string quarterback. Let's just say not as competitive.
I watched a lot of games this morning and this afternoon, because the Chiefs weren't playing, so I didn't have one game I dominated, and that was the game that kept dragging me back in.
Yep.
I kept going back into that Steelers and Ravens game to see how it was going. I don't know if it would have been different if Mason Rudolph would have stayed in the game after that atrocious hit, but we'll get into it down the road. Ray, good to see you. He says, go Pack, go. Daniel, good to see you as well. He said, never. College and NFL 5-0 winning is in the blood. I think he's talking about, I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure what
Daniel,
he's talking about.
tell me what you're talking about, man. I thought I knew, but I don't know.
And Ian says, horrible officiating this week in the NFL. I totally agree. The NFL's problem is they have a couple crews that are decent, and pretty much all the rest of them at the bottom seem to be turning a lot of these games back and forth. I know they said they want to have an emphasis on holding this offseason, but I think we're kind of overreacting to the Saints getting screwed over on one call. This has kind of been the pushback that is definitely slowing football down. I mean, 2 years ago, were we talking about this, where all these flags are coming in? I mean, we have had so many penalties this year. We've had so many different games kind of turn because the ref makes a ticky-tack call to this point. I think they need to, again, let the guys play. We're seeing less and less of that because, I think, of what happened to the Saints in the NFC Championship last year.
All right, let's go into this game. Let's go in the game that Steven's waiting for. Let's talk about the Chicago Bears game against the Oakland Raiders in London. I'm going to go back to kind of what I said earlier in the show. What the Raiders showed me is that if they can get up a quick lead on somebody, they can play stout enough defense to keep that lead and keep it going. They tried to do that in Kansas City, or when they played Kansas City, minus one quarter. Oakland would have won that game.
Sure, but they had a bad quarter in this one, too,
right.
In the third quarter, where they let the Bears and Chase Daniel kind of catch up. They went into halftime, what was it, 17-0?
Yeah,
and then the third quarter they came out and gave up the lead. It was like 21-17. The Raiders had to come back and score to win the game. I get it, Raiders fans. You should be 100% ecstatic. You should like the way your team is starting. They seem to be one of the best teams when it comes to mentality, that they're coming out and starting fast. They did the same thing last week against Indianapolis when no one was saying they had a chance. They started fast, and they wound up winning the game because of it. I think this Raiders team, even though it doesn't have the talent to make a deep push in the playoffs, has the building blocks that you want to see for a franchise going forward. You have the mentality. You seem like your coach. Whether you like John Gruden or not, he's got these guys on board.
Yeah.
They're coming out and they're playing hard and they're taking advantage early in games. A lot of teams start slow. I mean, even the Patriots started slow today. They let the Redskins hang around with them for a while.
They did 7-6 for a long time.
Exactly, and that game got ugly. But the Raiders, to their credit, have started pretty fast in a lot of these games.
No doubt about it. My last little comment for Raiders is, I'm about to say it, Josh Jacobs, he might be a legitimate running back in this league. I kind of knocked that draft pick. I know we both knocked.
I still don't love it.
Both knocked that draft pick.
First-round running backs.
But it went, regardless if it's in London, Chicago, Oakland, makes no difference. When you can run on a defense like Chicago, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns, it's something to be excited about.
I definitely agree. They won the battle today. Do you think a little bit of that was the Bears overlooking them? I think a good chunk of it was.
I think a little. Well, I think it was also Chase Daniel's scenario, but
yeah,
just because you're like,
are we in danger of seeing the Bears quit? We talked a lot about the Raiders. Let's talk about the Bears for a second. Are we in danger of seeing this Bears defense quit? I mean, they're 2-3 now, I believe. They might be 3-2. I'm pretty sure they're 2-3.
They're 3-2. They're 3-2.
Okay.
This is their second loss.
Are we in danger of seeing them quit with a guy like Chase Daniels at the helm if Mitch Trubisky doesn't come back and we don't see significant improvement out of the offense? We've seen Jacksonville do it. We've seen other good defenses. They're stout for a while, but then when the offense can't keep pace, eventually the guys just get demoralized. And when the defense starts to slip is when everything flies off the rails for teams built like this. Are we in danger of seeing that with Chicago?
No, I don't think so at all. I just think it's just a bad day. You can literally chalk that up for a lot of players, a lot of teams, a lot of offenses, a lot of defenses. Sometimes you just have a bad day, and I think this is one of them. Oakland fans should be excited. I mean, it's something. I'm not trying to knock anything or take anything away from the Raiders. I'm not. This is a great win for that team. But when you look at the long spectrum of it all, are the Raiders a playoff contender or are the Bears? I'd still say the Bears are at this point.
They've got 3 wins.
Yeah, I don't care.
You get to play Denver again. That should be nice. You get to play the Chargers.
They're not.
I know they get the Chiefs again, but
they're not winning the division.
You can sneak in without winning the division. I don't know. You look at the rest of the AFC. I'm not gonna rule them out just yet. Do I think it happens? No, I don't. But I think this team might have a chance of getting to 8 wins.
I'll beer bet
or 9.
Raiders,
beer bet on the Raiders.
Raiders don't make the playoffs.
No, I won't take it. No, I'm good. Again, it's the AFC. You never know. The Colts could decide they're good and beat the Chiefs tonight or something.
Beer bet. Beer bet, not a shirt bet. Beer bet.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting at least. I think when you look at the Raiders. 3-2 is better than we even panned them on, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No doubt about it. Let's move on to the next game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers go on the road to face the New Orleans Saints. Saints pulled this one off, but at the end there, I thought maybe the Bucs might have a miracle.
The Bucs hung around, and the Saints let them do it, but I got to give credit to Teddy Bridgewater. This is what a lot of quarterbacks should be doing to the Buccaneers defense that we haven't seen so far, which is throw for a bunch of yards and a bunch of touchdowns. Right. They look totally unprepared to face Michael Thomas. I mean, that guy dominated him all day in, day out. It was Michael Thomas's show. And even though this game stayed close, I never really was that concerned about it. I think the Saints had it all the way for me. I think Michael Thomas, the way he played, there was no stopping this guy. Even if they would have come back and scored, it would have had to been last second. Like, it would have needed to close the game out. And this kind of just tells you where the Bucs franchise is, that even though they put up some points, Chris Godwin had a good day himself. I don't want to leave him out. Pretty much nobody else did anything for this offense. It was Chris Godwin all day long.
No, it absolutely was. No doubt about it. I think you nailed it across the board. Let's move on to the next game. Minnesota Vikings go on the road to face the Giants. This didn't go as I thought it would be. I knew that the Vikings would win this game. I thought the Giants would put up a little bit more. Does Gallman going out of the game after his second run, is that the difference in this? I mean, No. Is that what's changed the game plan for the Giants?
Because, it hurt him. Yeah.
I mean, because you look at the Saquon Barkley move, or when he's injured, and Jones kind of had to play that a little bit differently. And yeah, I know the outcome was different, but
yeah.
I mean, when you sit there and you plan for your starting running back to be there, and he goes out in the second carry, I mean, it changes everything you do.
This is just what Kirk Cousins can look like when they protect him. I don't think the Giants' defense. I think the Giants' defense deserves all the blame. The Vikings have a good defense. They may not be elite like they were in 2017 when they went to the NFC Championship, but they're very good still. Remember, this team has hung with some squads. I think all day long you're going to have a rookie quarterback on his third start or fourth start, whatever it is for Daniel Jones, go up against a defense like this and struggle. I know Wayne Gallman went out. Do I think the game changes a whole lot? No. I think this is all on the defense not being for the Giants where it needs to be to keep it close. Kirk Cousins threw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. It seemed like a cakewalk. He had 5 incompletions, Drew. Adam Thielen looks like he's back. You saw Dalvin Cook pretty much dominate this. You got to score a few points to keep up with a team like the Vikings, or you just have to totally destroy Kirk Cousins. The Giants did neither of those things. And I don't think it's on Daniel Jones. This is just another case of one team being further along in their playoff pursuit than the other one is.
Agreed. I think the 2-0 start for Jones was kind of more of a fluke. Not that they didn't earn those wins. I think this was just more of a coming to reality kind of party. Let's move on to the next game. The Philadelphia Eagles take a win at home against the Jets, the ailing Jets. I mean, did anyone see anything different than this? Look, the only thing I got to take away from this game is Falk is not ready for prime time. We had a little bit of discussion about this, about does he even deserve to be in the NFL. I think when you talk about a third-string quarterback, I think it's always what that guy could possibly be, but probably not. I think this is what a Falk is.
It's the equivalent of a fantasy football flyer pick. I mean, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But you look at the way he played, and this is a bad secondary, mind you. It was pretty atrocious. Philadelphia scored a couple touchdowns on defense. They had one of the best days defensively, at least fantasy-wise, that we've seen all season long. Right. They dominated them from left, right, and center. And the other point I want to draw back to, who is telling you don't take Le'Veon Bell super high in your fantasy?
Dude,
that would be me. And
he still got.
Well, hold on.
He still got 40 or 88 yards.
He did. And if you play in PPR, he caught some passes. That's cool. But you also spent the top 5 pick on him.
Yeah, but you didn't think that Sam Darnold would be out with mono.
Do you think it's a lot better with Sam Darnold in there? The defense probably doesn't score a ton of points.
Let me rephrase this.
Go ahead.
He is a better pick right now than Saquon Barkley.
Will Saquon Barkley hurt?
Well, just throwing it out there.
Yeah, knowing what we know, the healthy running back plays over the injured one. Okay, great call on that one, Drew. But
I think I was right.
Technically, you are correct. Absolutely. My question is, how much better does Sam Darnold do? Does Sam Darnold beat this defense? I don't think so. I don't think this comes down to quarterback as much as it comes down to the Jets don't have the offensive weapons or the offensive line to compete. And eventually, again, maybe with fewer mistakes, this game stays closer. But would you take the Jets if Sam Darnold plays here? Or would you go Eagles? Because I go Eagles.
Yeah,
I'm going to go with the team that just beat Green Bay in Green Bay on a Thursday.
Yeah, no doubt about it. My last little thing is it's nice to finally see Zach Ertz. I know all your fantasy people out there that took Ertz high in that tight end position. Finally, nice for him to show up a little bit.
I agree.
Let's move on to the next game. The Ravens versus the Steelers. The Ravens pull it out after a overtime Juju fumble and a Justin Tucker 46-yard field goal. I know you have questions.
JT's the GOAT.
I know you have questions. I know you have questions because Tomlin decided to defer in overtime.
I'm not sure who was Tomlin. It might have been
which is
whoever
still
was in
really
the huddle.
weird. But
yeah. Maybe the wind was that bad. It's Heinz Field, right? They get a lot of wind there. Maybe it was bad enough to the point. I'm not sure what the wind direction was. I don't have that stat in front of me. But that to me is almost inexcusable. I don't care how bad of a day you're having offensively. I don't care if it's your third string quarterback. I think you almost always have to take the ball in overtime, right? Unless you're playing in a hurricane.
I can't think of any team that wouldn't.
Yeah, but it came down to Justin Tucker winning the day for him. They did stop the Ravens, to give them credit. The defense looked great. The other thing I kind of want to point out, Lamar Jackson ran for 70 yards, threw for 161, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Not bad for a running back. I can't wait for that quote to stick around. I've been saying it forever. Again, another guy we celebrated because he beat up on bad defenses through the air. I still think he's an okay quarterback. Look, you can still win games with Lamar Jackson when the defense is playing. The problem is this defense is not playing. There's a reason this third-string quarterback, whose name is Hodges, I had to look it up, there's a reason he hung with them, even after Mason Rudolph came out. He was 7 of 9. This defense is falling apart. You're going to need something special out of Baltimore if they're going to stay the contenders that we all thought they were in the offseason.
Nathan, good to see you, man. I hope the Chiefs do slaughter the Colts really bad. Ian said the Steelers' offense was slow to start. Bad officiating was the bad officiating was bad. Both teams got bad calls. The hit on Mason was vicious. Hodges looked good and poised. Just a few bad bounces cost the Steelers, but the Steelers for life, bang, bang.
It was a great play. The only thing I'll say with the way we've seen this defense play, it's hard to evaluate how good Hodges actually was. If we see this again, then maybe you're like, okay, we've got another guy that has a little bit of potential. Because I don't think Mason Rudolph has been playing terribly. I don't think he's been good. I don't think he's terrible.
He had one good game.
Yeah. But with him out, if he does miss extended time, and it looks like he might because he was like knocked out cold in the field, I don't know how good I feel about Hodges coming in and playing. Again, the Ravens have been giving up yards left and right to pretty much everybody. I think defensively, they're living on reputation right now.
Ian says third-string quarterback. He likes to call the kick, a.k.a. Bill Belichick. So he's thinking that they're looking at their offense. They're like, Hodges is out there. It's not Mason. We got to give our chance to have to win the game based off of defense alone.
From a game theory, I mean, from field position, maybe you bet on them stopping them and you get a better field position and you have a short field goal. But you're still talking about it like a wing and a prayer here, holding them to no first downs, and you're almost counting on getting a couple sacks,
right?
And having them kick from like their 10-yard line to set you up where you need like a couple first downs to win the game. I think when you look at game theory and you look at them having a 10-minute overtime period, that extra possession could come into play. I mean, especially if I'm believing my defense, I'm taking the ball first. Because I'm going to say, even if the offense gets nothing going, I'm going to bet on my defense coming up with the stops I need them to. Instead, I know they had a fumble.
Even though that your defense really has stopped the Ravens' offense for the majority of the game, that offense that the Ravens have is one of those high-flying offenses that, a 50-yard, 60-yard, 40-yard pass run is not unimaginable for this offense. That is a huge risk that Tomlin took. It paid off in the sense they stopped him. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for the Steelers. They took a loss. It's a tough one, but guess what? I think Tomlin's going to have his first losing record as an NFL coach in this league.
Weren't they 7-9 last year? 7-8-1? Was that what it was? I think they did last year.
He's never had a losing record.
Let us know, Ian.
He's never had
was
a
it
losing
8-7-1? I thought he was 7-8-1 last year. Maybe not. That's okay. Ian, like I said, let us know if you know. Let's go on to our next game. Let's talk about the Patriots and the Redskins. This game started close. Tom Brady eventually kind of got it back into groove, and they wound up blowing the Redskins out. Are we talking about a new coach in Washington next week? Is there a hotter seat than Jay Gruden sitting on right now in the NFL?
No, probably not. Just because a lot of the teams that aren't doing that well have already replaced their quarterback, their head coach. He's probably in the hottest seat. But it goes right back to what we said about it last week, and I think the week before that is, who's going to replace this guy? who in this organization that you sit there and lean on and go, are going to be our interim. I know it's not our next head coach, but to sit there and be, to sit there and say that Gruden needs to be gone this early in the season, I say let this play out. You know you weren't going to do well at quarterback. I don't care who you are. I'm a Redskins fan. I knew it was going to be a struggle. I knew that this was not going to be a pretty season. I did not believe in Dwayne Haskins. Now, that rumor is the one that I think he might lose his job on. If Jay Gruden did not want Haskins to be drafted and the front office did, and the discord between that of who to start and who not to start, because I know they started Colt McCoy and it didn't look good, that might be the reason why this guy might be let go. Beyond that,
Well,
I think legitimate as a Redskins fan, I think this is what we saw what was coming. We thought the defense might still been a little bit better than this, but the defense can only play for so long until they get exhausted.
And they did. I mean, they hung with the Patriots for a while.
They played really well.
And
they actually held Tom Brady back to only 6 points. They intercepted him. They couldn't run the ball. They got exhausted at some point.
I totally agree with you. Frank, good to see you, man. And Michael says all he has to say is good luck tonight. Well, good luck to you too, man. Again, I don't have a dog in the fight per se. I think I'm going to be happy with either result.
No,
If the Colts win, I know my division gets tougher for my team to win, but I get to listen to Drew talk about this game. And if the Chiefs win, hey, you're helping me out. Regardless of how bad and our chances look right now, I think my team, like I said, I can go either way tonight.
Steve, good to see you, man. He's saying Buffalo. He had to rub it in, man.
He did. What about the Bills looked impressive to you today? I'm going to go with a flat nothing, Steve. And let me tell you this. Maybe this is me being a bitter Titans fan, but some of those calls against us, some of those holding calls, pretty rough. I think it was tough to be a Titans fan today in Nashville. I'll give the Bills credit. They're 4-1, and they've been so down on their luck. I don't hate them for it, but I'm still pretty hurt. I don't think that was a great game. I think a couple of those touchdowns that got called back probably should have stayed on the board. But at the end of the day, when you miss 4 field goals, do you deserve to win? You did not. So Titans 2-3, Bills 4-1. Congrats for that.
Let's move into the next game. The Jaguars go on the road to face the Panthers. Gardner Minshew.
I promise I'll keep it short. That's all I can say.
Your guy didn't get this win.
He had a Jameis Winston kind of day.
I don't know.
2 touchdowns, 3 turnovers, 370 yards.
I'll give you that.
He had a Jameis Winston kind of day. I'll give him credit. I said before I want to see him perform against this defense, and in some sense he threw for a lot of yards. It was a little risky. He didn't really have a high completion percentage, but he wasn't terrible. He was somewhere around that 54, 56% range. I'll say this about Gardner Minshew, though. For everybody that's all in on the bandwagon and it's fun for as long as you're joking about it, I'm okay with it. Do I think you're winning consistently with Gardner Minshew going forward? No, I still think this is Nick Foles' team. I think it almost has to be. Was that nice enough? Was that brief enough?
It was great, dude. Dad, you're right. It is almost showtime. Trust me, as soon as this show ends, I will be over there watching it with you and drinking beer. I don't want to ignore what the Panthers are doing here because not only are they embracing Kyle Allen, they offensively, even though their defense didn't look good today, the 3 turnovers is kind of like a highlight for them because, the Jaguars put up a little bit of points. I don't want to knock anything that Minshew's doing. I'm on the opposite side of the fence that you are.
Go ahead.
I'm not sitting there saying that Minshew is the best quarterback to ever come out of a draft. I'm not giving you that. But I think he's a legitimate, growing to be a legitimate starter in this league. He's making someone like DJ Shark look like a number 1 receiver. He's giving opportunities for Fournette to open up those run lanes and move forward. None of that stuff was happening prior to him being on the field. And I know that it was a very quick entry to the season, but the fact that Minshew has been able to do it, it looks good. So what I'm saying is the Panthers defense did what they could, and they got a victory. They're rallying behind a young quarterback in Kyle Allen, which I'm pretty sure a majority of us had no idea who this guy was because we thought it was the gentleman out of West Virginia that I'm blanking out of his name
Will
right
Greer.
now.
We thought it was his job.
Would be his job to take over, and obviously we were wrong. Beyond that, the other thing I have to say is
we'll pump the brakes. I don't want to say that we're wrong on Will Greer. It's one of those things that when you take a guy with essentially a 3rd-round pick, you assume he's going to get some playtime.
We were wrong in the sense that it was his job.
Yeah,
that's what. That's what
obviously he was beaten out, and that might be more of an indictment on Greer rather than everyone else. But when you take a 3rd-round pick and you don't play him, what does that mean? Does that mean we missed? Is that kind of admitting that we swung the bat and we missed? And Kyle Allen's been playing okay. I know he had the 3 fumbles last week, and I kind of panned him when that happened. I'm doing the same thing to Gardner Minshew now. You can't fumble 3 times if you're a starting NFL quarterback. You just can't do it. I think, again, if they look at that and they say, this is our best option to win, they don't have a lot in this draft pick that is Will Grier.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say after that is anyone that took any other running back before McCaffrey in fantasy is regretting it right now because they are using McCaffrey often and throughout the whole entire game, and this guy is performing as well. Because, the whole entire talk was he's going to be on a quote-unquote snap count, and now he's blowing those numbers out of the water.
Because the Panthers don't know what a shelf life is, and we've kind of complained about that with Cam Newton.
Right.
2 or 3 years from now, we're going to be saying the same thing about Christian McCaffrey. Man, what happened to him? I don't know. Oh, probably the fact that he touches the ball all game. Pretty much every offensive play, it's going to McCaffrey first.
I think there's
and then you check it down to a receiver.
I think there's some kind of stat out there where they're saying that he could possibly touch the ball 500 times, over 500 times this year.
One word?
That's nuts.
Unsustainable.
That's nuts.
Unsustainable. Nobody can do that.
Justin, good to see you, man. Ian says, got to get Drew out of here before the kickoff. KC is the team to beat in the AFC. I'd hate to say that in front of Drew. I don't know why I'd hate that, man. I mean, it's honest. It's honest.
I hate it, and I'm sitting next to him. Because every time I talk about anyone, you're like, I even said, would you want to have Gardner Minshew as your quarterback? You're like, oh, I don't need Gardner Minshew as my quarterback. I know. Patrick Mahomes is good. We've heard. We'll move on. We'll talk about our next game here. I think the best thing for the Jaguars going forward is you have a quarterback that has the potential to keep you in games in Gardner Minshew, and I've been harsh on him. I think maybe he's in that fringe starter scenario where if you're a bad team like the Broncos, you'd like to have a guy like Gardner Minshew leading the charge. Do I think Gardner Minshew takes you anywhere? Well, he's already working with a good defense. I think Leonard Fournette's a good running back. He's a couple weapons shy, sure, but let's not pretend like this team is just totally bereft of talent. They're okay.
They're bereft.
As for the Panthers, another big win against the AFC South. That's pretty important. I think, again, this is the team we kind of counted out with no Cam Newton. Now it seems like this team's good enough to win without him. And we can move on.
Let's move on. Let's go on to the next game where the Falcons went on the road to the Texans. Man, was I wrong about this game. I thought the Falcons might find some weakness in that secondary, which they kind of did. But their defense...
330 yards, 3 touchdowns from Matt Ryan. I know he threw a pick. 32 of 46, good completion percentage. This was a shootout through and through. The problem is their defense is worse than the
They kind of found a weakness in it. The problem is their defense didn't show up to help support the offense. That's what I was getting at.
And Steve says, you have to admit, though, our defense is legit. Sorry, I can only comment every so often because he's at work. Well, we appreciate you sticking with us, Steven. Your defense is legit. They had a good game. I think they had a little bit of help, especially like early on when they caught that 20-yard pass off the gate and then the holding comes back and then they get a false start afterward. I think the Bills are a legit defense, and I've said that for a long time. Do I think the rest of their team is that good? I don't, but you can win with the defense. I don't think that this should have been a game that the Bills lost. I think the Titans were 100% the better team today. The Bills still pulled out the victory, which I guess is the important part. I'm going to grind through here. We'll keep going.
I do have...
I don't want to hold you up.
I know. I do have one comment, and I know that game's starting, and I need to go. But, Steve, I just want you to know that I think the complete opposite. I think that the Bills are a legitimate team because when your offense isn't as good, your defense steps up and you play to win the game. Not trying to mention Coach Herman, but the thing is not every team's going to have a great offense. Not every team's going to have a great defense. What makes a great team is a team that comes together and like, our strength is defense, so offense, just don't turn the ball over enough, and we can win this game for you. And I think the Bills have a legitimate chance to be a playoff contender.
And they had all 4 facets of the game today. They had offense, defense, special teams, and referees. And coaching. I'm kidding. Again, the Titans didn't deserve to win them when they missed 4 field goals. That's all I can say, Steve. Good game. I'm glad the Bills are 4-1 because Again, if you had to pick a team to root for, the Bills are one of those ones that you're kind of happy to see them finally succeed. We'll move forward here, and we'll talk about our next game, which is we're talking about the Falcons and the Texans. Is there anything else you want to grind through on this? Is there anything else you want to talk about?
What I want to really do, and I know Deshaun Watson had a really great game, 28 of 33, 426 yards, 5 touchdowns, looked really great. Fuller had an amazing game that he probably will never repeat. what I do want to do is pump the brakes a little bit on this. I know one of our huge fans and one of our huge supporters is Sharif, which I know you guys all know who that is. He's a great guy, very knowledgeable, but he's already sitting there posting Player of the Week. He's very, already saying he's the GOAT.
And you're saying wait till Mahomes plays before you say that.
Well, it's just, to me, it's...
And Mayfield's coming up. We got some guys. Garoppolo. We got some guys
all
coming
I want
up.
to say...
Even Brissett. Brissett's had good
as
days.
As good as he looks... He still has really terrible games that just look absolutely terrible.
Like last week against the Panthers.
Exactly.
Gardner Minshew looked better against the Panthers than Deshaun Watson did.
Yes.
And you know what happened? They took away DeAndre Hopkins.
Right.
And they didn't have the answer. Today the answer was Will Fuller. They're like,
right.
oh yeah, by the way, we have another receiver on this
we have
team.
that guy. Yeah.
So I look at that game. I think I'm with you. It was a great performance, but we need to see a little bit more consistency. He's come up short in big moments, like last year against the Colts in the playoffs. Deshaun Watson still has to be your favorite in the AFC South. If you look at the way he's played versus everybody else, it's head and shoulders above everybody else. He had that kind of game today.
I know, Jeremy, that game's on. Ian, my hat is waiting for me. I just didn't grab it. I was too excited to get into this show. Let's go on to the next game. The Broncos go on the road to face the LA Chargers, and they pull off a win. What in this game excites you? Maybe minus Philip Lindsay kind of showing why we thought he was as good as he was last year. What is exciting about this game to you?
Can we just admit that the Chargers are fool's gold, like I've been saying for like a year and a half now? That they're not that good of a team, even though they have great players. They don't have the mentality and they don't have the guts of the team, the toughness, whatever it's going to take to consistently win in the NFL. I don't think they're a bad team. I think they still have the potential to make the playoffs, but losing to the Broncos like this, in division or not, is inexcusable. I know they have problems defending the run. You still know that that's what the Broncos are here to do, right? Mm-hmm. There's a reason Philip Lindsay absolutely killed him, and it's because they have no answer for that, and they didn't really step up, in my opinion, game plan-wise, to find a way to get Philip Lindsay out of this.
Ian, I completely agree with you. The way the Chargers played today, the Steelers will win next week, but we'll leave that for next week because I'm not going to give away my pick. I gotta kind of see how everything goes. Let's move on to the last game. The Packers go on the road to face the Cowboys, and they got to win, 34-24. Everyone's saying Aaron Rodgers. This is Aaron Rodgers Stadium.
It was a different Aaron today.
But he didn't do anything overly exciting. It was, don't get me wrong, he moved the ball. He moved it down the field, but the one that you got to sit there and point out is Aaron Jones. 107 yards, 4 touchdowns. Anytime a running back throws or runs for 4 touchdowns, 100 yards and 4 touchdowns, you got to be excited about this.
Especially when he's on your fantasy team. It's finally paying off, Drew. I think from the other perspective, I got to say, how about these Cowboys coming up way short today? And this has been kind of a running theme against these good teams that the Cowboys haven't showed up yet. I think it's a mentality thing. I still think they're a good team. I think defensively they need to be better. Offensive line needs to play a lot better when you see Zadarius Smith just absolutely running over everybody. And the rest of this Packers defense, too, kind of shut them out. It was, 24-0? That's as much a defensive win as it is on the offense. That is a complete win for the Packers. I think when you look at the way they played, I think they were upset about losing to the Eagles last week. I think they came out with an extra couple days worth of rest because it was on Thursday Night Football. And they just gave it to a team that hasn't had the mentality to step up in these big games so far. I think the Packers are – there's a reason we put them at number 3, right?
Yeah.
Even though we didn't pick them, we thought Zeke would have a bigger day because they've struggled against the run.
Right.
Today it was the other way around. The Cowboys struggled against the run.
Yeah, only 62 yards and a touchdown. Nothing super exciting. He did get a couple catches, but that was about it. But I do want to go to the other side, back to the Packers, and I guess I'm on this Aaron Jones bandwagon. Adams is out. The best receiver is completely gone. Who's the question? Who's going to catch it? Who's Aaron Jones? I didn't mean to ignore the fact that this guy also not only ran the ball, he caught the ball well. He had 7 receptions for 75 yards. He was... This is what the Packers should be doing the whole entire time, even with Adams out there on the field.
I've been saying it for a long time. This is the best running back in that set. Even though Jamal Williams is not a terrible player, I don't love the split between Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. You need to just pick one and roll with it, and I think Aaron Jones is the most talented guy. Does he always have success? No. Do I think today was a little bit of an outlier? Yes. But at the end of the day, he's your most talented running back. He should see the lion's share of the touches in that offense. Did I stutter through that enough? Say that 7 times fast.
Is it stuttering or is it just a slur?
I think it's the beer catching up to me here. And Ian, his daughter, is not cheering for the Chiefs. She is actually a Colts fan. Believe it or not.
Whoa, no, she's not.
All right,
She would be sleeping outside. I don't care what her age is.
Final thoughts about this game before we go into our picks, and we'll get you out of here.
I think the Packers are a legitimate playoff team. Maybe even a legitimate Super Bowl team.
I'm with Justin here. Are the Packers the top in the NFC? Right now, yes, they are.
Yes.
Yeah, they are the best team and the team to beat in the NFC right now. The only two teams we put ahead of them last week in our power rankings, the Chiefs and the Patriots. They're still there. I think regardless of how the Chiefs play, they're ahead today. Right now, this is the best NFC team in football.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, let's pick our primetime games. The Colts go on the road to face Kansas City. Obviously, the game's going on right now.
And you're watching it, trying to get an edge on me.
I am watching it. Well, does it really surprise you who I'm going to pick here? It's going to be Kansas City at home.
Is it going to surprise you who I'm going to take here? I'm going to go against the Colts and say the Chiefs are going to win here. And it's not just because the Colts are a division rival for me. I think when you look at this game, how do you not pick Kansas City? I know they had a scare against the Lions, but it took three fumbles for that to happen. I think when you look at the Chiefs offense, until I see it happen, I got to go with them every week. They got to be your every week pick. And that's going to kind of ruin the shows going forward. We talk about their games.
Oh, they played New England at some point.
The only thing I can say is Marlon Mack should have a good day against the Chiefs. I think offensive line-wise, they should be able to win up front enough to have Marlon Mack kind of succeed. I think we'll see some Wilkins, too, and some Nyheim Hines. If they're going to win this game, and they're not, but if they're going to win this game, it needs to be a lot of running the ball and a lot of grinding clock to keep Patrick Mahomes on the sideline and out of rhythm.
I'm distracted. Oh, what a catch. God. All right. Let's go into Monday night. The Cleveland Browns go on the road to face the San Francisco 49ers. I got the 49ers in this. I do want to take some of my and not take my words back, but I do want to kind of explain what I was talking about. And in the power rankings, you put the 49ers at 7. I said that's a little too high. I still think they're in the top 10. I just don't think they're at 7. And it's not because I don't think that this team is good. It's just I want to see them play some other competition outside of what they're used to. This game right here against the Cleveland Browns, who have showed kind of what we thought they were going to be a little bit during the offseason. If they can win this game, I think the 49ers are a legitimate team in the AFC, and they're right behind the Packers. Or the NFC, and they're right behind the Packers.
And Frank's thrown out New Orleans. Ian's thrown out Detroit. All those teams are great, but I think when you look at the pedgree of some of these wins that Green Bay has right now, they lost to the Eagles on a deflected pass, or a pass that bounced off the receiver's arm. If they win that game and they're 5-0 right now, are we talking about the Packers being the best team in the NFC? I think we are. I think we're letting the results kind of dictate who we like and who we don't. The Packers have won some impressive games. Remember, the Eagles should be a playoff team. They've beaten the Bears, who should definitely be a playoff team. They've beaten the Vikings, who are like a fringe playoff team. They have played tough games week in and week out. They beat the Cowboys, who are a playoff team. Almost every one of these games has been a difficult game for them. We've seen Detroit let the Cardinals come back on a 19-point deficit to tie them in overtime where they can't get the job done. We've seen New Orleans with Teddy Bridgewater look vulnerable at times. Even against Houston, they looked like they could have lost that game even with Drew Brees. It took like kind of a miracle comeback to make it happen. I think it's Packers right now. I think New Orleans is probably a close second. Detroit's trailing that, and then I'll say 49ers. Even though I like the 49ers, I think I'll kind of flip it a little bit. Maybe Monday night I'll change my mind, but it's neck and neck with Detroit and the 49ers.
If they win this game, I put them up there. And Frank, I know you said New Orleans, and it's only because Drew Brees is not there. If Drew Brees was there, they'd be number 2. No doubt about it. Even I might question the number 1 with the Packers right now.
It would definitely be neck and neck with Drew Brees, healthy and playing well, but the question is going to be how long can a 40-year-old stay healthy and playing well? Aaron Rodgers has youth on him still, even though he's getting up there himself. I think the Packers' defense is definitely much improved. The Saints' defense is playing well. Now the Packers are playing well enough to kind of match that. I think, again, that might be the 2-horse race to end it. I like Detroit, but I still don't think roster-wise they're going to be tough enough. I think I like the 49ers and the way they're playing. Defensively, they're starting to take the ball away, which is what they've been missing. It's got to be Packers, though. For right now, it's Packers 100% for me.
All right, Frank's going to do our final thoughts. He's going to give us a question here for our final thought. Oh, I thought you picked. I'm sorry.
I did not. I'm going to take the 49ers. I think you took the 49ers, correct?
Correct.
And in the offseason, we took the Browns. But I'll say this. Even though the Browns had an amazing week last week, it was against Baltimore, and that defense that I was just telling you is not good at all. So my question is going to be, what 49ers defense do we get at home that's had an extra week to prepare because they had their bye week early, week 4 last week, against a Browns offense that has had one good game and everything else has been pretty much terrible. Defensively, they're not stout. This is all 49ers here, I think. I think the 49ers run the ball. I think that defensive front is going to frustrate Baker Mayfield more than he's probably used to. I'm going 49ers here.
Well, I apologize. I thought you picked. I'm glad you picked the 49ers.
Well, you hurt my feelings.
It sounds like you know what you're talking about. I'm not worried about your feelings.
Definitely
Frank,
I'm offended.
Frank has given us our final thoughts.
Stop the show. I'm offended. Go ahead.
Frank has given our final thought here. He's going to ask us a question. How many games do New Orleans lose without Breeze?
Show me the schedule and I'll tell you. And again, I want to know when Breeze comes back. I think with Teddy Bridgewater, they're definitely susceptible, but they're good enough to beat teams like the Buccaneers this week with
And
Teddy Bridgewater and the Cowboys, who, to be frank, have not looked good.
I know, baby.
We didn't lock the door this time.
We're going to go.
All right. That sounds like good final thoughts to me.
Well, my daughter is ready for football. She's ready to watch the game. I'm gonna give the New Orleans. They're gonna win a majority of their games. I don't know how many because I also don't know how many Drew Brees is out. They might lose 2 games, maybe, but it's definitely more on the win side of it. Guys, thank you again for all the likes, comments, and shares. It means the world to us. I'm sorry I'm getting out of here, but my Chiefs are playing. I know I'm super excited. If this is the Titans, he'd be the exact same way.
We'll go to 8:30 when it's somebody else's team, but when it's one of ours, we're out of here. All right? We're phoning it in. You guys are lucky we even had a show tonight. So let's do some special thanks and get out of here.
Michael, Austin, Jeremy, Steven, Daniel, Ian, Chris, Austin, Ray, Daniel, Nathan, Frank, Steve, Ken, Justin, and you guys, and thank you, Frank, for the final comments, and Ian, thank you for always being there. You guys are all amazing. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you so much.
And if you were just watching, you didn't comment, feel free to talk to us. Don't be shy. We're right here. So for Sports Around the Bar, we'll be back on Tuesday to go through all of this primetime action, talk about how the Colts upset the Chiefs, and how the 49ers won as well. For Sports Around the Bar, I'm Jake, your bartender. This is Drew. We'll see you on Tuesday.
See ya.
Nothing to say to that?